Glenn, can you just say your name, hometown?
Hi, how you doing? My name's Glen Sobel, and we are in my hometown of Los Angeles, California. How about that?
That's awesome. You know, I was wondering that. I thought that. I thought you were a hometown guy, but I wasn't completely sure, so I wanted to make
rare
sure.
thing. Born and raised, L.A.
It is rare, dude. It is rare. It is. There's a lot of transplants, a lot of dream chasers out here, like me. So, I want to start with the purpose of this interview. It's really to discuss drumming, kind of hit on why you're a drummer, kind of hit on some of the stuff that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Sure, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Cool, man. So, the first question is real easy. What made you start playing drums?
Man, you know, you get into playing drums for so many years, you forget something like that. But I think it's because of hearing, this is cliche for so many drummers, but hearing Rush for the first time. I'm almost embarrassed to say that because it's so cliche, but it's true. Hearing the YYZ drum solo on Exit Stage Left, my friend's older brother had that across the street from me when I was a kid, and he's blasting it out of the front window, and we were on the driveway playing basketball, and his older brother's there going, check this out, man, this is awesome, the guy plays a drum solo, and I'm just like, it was that moment, you know, where the light shines on you, and you hear the angels sing, and it's like, oh, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard, you know, so I started getting Rush records, and then I wanted to be a drummer, of course.
Wow, man, so YYZ
and then
was the
Zeppelin
first
did it too, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that'll segue to the next question. Top favorite drummers, then?
How could you ask me a question like that? That's impossible. Come on, man.
Let's say rock.
Come on,
rock
Tim.
drummers. How about that?
Still impossible. But no, okay. Obviously, I've mentioned Neil Peart and John Bonham. It started because of them. Always the live records. They had drum solos on them. For some reason, I get that first. But then there's the mainstays. Ian Pace, Alex Van Halen. God, so many. I'm afraid that I'm going to leave somebody out. But, you know, Mitch Mitchell and Cozy Powell, and the list goes on and on and on.
Man, that's awesome.
It's an impossible question.
Who are some of your favorite guys in town that you get to check out live?
Lately?
We'll say lately, sure, yeah.
I mean, this is Los Angeles, so guys in town is literally almost half of all working known drummers. I mean, name a name, and I've probably seen them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, well, let me think.
So many great players out here.
You know, gosh, you're right, man. And that brings me to, you know, we were talking before we started. You know, I think we met, I did the math 13 years ago. And you...
Sounds about right.
Yeah, man. I saw you at the Baked Potato.
Huh.
I don't know if you remember that at all.
Was it a gig?
I think it was a Monday Night Jam.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Monday Night Jam.
Right, Baked Potato, world famous hole in the wall. People know this place all over the world. There have been records called So-and-so Live at the Baked Potato. People walk into the place, they go, this is it? It's like a living room, right?
Yeah, man, it blew me away when I first saw it because I got to see, you know, I saw you, and I'm pretty sure Danny Carey was there that night playing, and that turned out to be kind of a normal thing, seeing, you know, you and Danny up close, 10 feet away.
Well, people trip out on that live in other states, other countries. Danny Carey at a place the size of a living room. This is like a regular thing in LA. Sorry. Yeah. But we just get this kind of stuff here.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, man. And I remember talking to you, and I said to myself, you know, here, kid, I was, you know, 13 years ago, and I said, I think I asked you for a lesson because I saw you play, man, and I just got to say, man, you're like one of the most technical drummers that I've ever seen.
Thanks.
Like aside from like Virgil Donati and like Thomas Lang.
Oh, those guys are on another planet. I love what they do.
Dude, you're on that planet. That's what I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
But we've all got our thing that we do. You find your niche or niches, which we could talk about. But I appreciate it, really. And I've been going to that place since I was 16, the Baked Potato, back in 19, you know.
Yeah.
Way back then.
Wow.
But, it was school for me to go there. Back then, Vinny was playing there a lot.
Oh, my gosh.
Drummers know it's like Cher. Vinny. It means Vinny Colaiuta. You only need one name with a guy like that. But he would play there like every week. And I would go there and watch from the side, right up close.
Do you think that brings me an interesting thing? You know, the Baked Potato, it's kind of a nerve-wracking thing. I know, you know, I've been playing a bunch, but not really like, I haven't been there since I was 16. So when I got there, it was pretty intimidating to get up there and play with those dudes.
Oh, like the Monday Night Jam, right?
Yeah, the Monday Night Jam. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I finally did, and it was like a big, like, yeah, you know. But I just wonder, like, you going there at 16, like, does that, Was that
I
ever a
wasn't.
factor?
I wasn't playing there. They weren't having jams back then. It was just people playing, and it would be Vinny. It would be Dave Garibaldi. The first time I ever went there was Richie Morales, who was in Spyro Gyra for years. He's a huge influence. Jeff Porcaro I saw play there way back, and then Simon Phillips moved to L.A. He started playing there, and Tom Breckline and Greg Bissonette, my mentor.
Oh, Greg is. Oh,
Yeah.
so that.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah.
that's a great question. Man, he always blew me away in the magazines. You studied with
I did.
Greg then. Wow.
Yeah. When I was 18, 19, for about a year and a half or so.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and we're great buddies to this day, and he helped kick off a couple of first gigs for me in this business.
So you're such a technical guy. You're such a rudimentary guy. Like everything you do just looks so practiced. Yeah.
Is that good?
This isn't blowing smoke. This is just like I just see you. I see like same with good athletes. And it's like, what did you start immediately on the drum set? Did you start on the pad rudiments? What?
Yeah, let's see. I started in beginning music class in 7th grade. I don't even remember how I got put in there. I don't know if I requested it or not, but they wanted people to pick numbers that wanted to play drums. And because every kid wanted to play drums. And
Sure.
I didn't want to get stuck on trombone. Sorry, trombone players, but
Yeah.
I didn't. And so we had to pick numbers out of a hat. There were 2 numbers left, and me and another guy left. I picked the right number.
Oh.
Major crossroads moment, right?
Wow, the lottery.
But that's how I got started, and it was just reading whole notes, half notes, quarter notes.
Okay.
I'm so glad for that. It was reading music in the beginning, which so many drummers just skip now.
Absolutely.
And I talk about this all the time when I'm doing lessons. I have students or doing clinics, the importance of reading music and how I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without it. I mean, that's a whole nother subject if you want. But that's how it started. First, the pad and reading.
I think that's a great thing we can bring up because this is one of those behind the scenes things that I want to talk about. I can read. I'm a decent reader. I can read charts. I grew up playing some jazz stuff. I'm not my sight reading. It's still kind of hard.
I'm not a great sight reader either. That's not something that gets exercised a lot. It's one of those things. It's a muscle you exercise. Reading, in my case, comes in with charting out songs, making cheat sheets, road maps, and it's not technically correct. You're not getting graded on it,
right?
But it's writing out the kick snare pattern of a verse. How many bars are in that verse? Is there an important transitional fill that you need to notate just right? And you got to use your judgment as to how to best notate and make a roadmap of a song. This is what's kept me working.
Dude, so on a percentage, what would you say you show up to a session and record? How many of those sessions have any sheet music for them?
Almost zero?
Yeah, almost zero. Okay, so in all your...
Look, I can't remember last time someone handed me something and said, here, we're playing this today, a sheet of paper. It's pretty rare. It's a situation where I show up and I have my manuscript paper, blank music paper, and I've got my pen, pencil, eraser, and yellow highlighter.
Yeah.
And I go to work making a cheat sheet.
With the reading, I did some jazz camps when I was coming up, right? And,
Good.
And yeah, it was insane, and it was really cool to see that world. And one of the jazz instructors was this dude named Tim Franchek. Awesome, legendary Michigan drummer. I actually studied with his daughter too. Side note,
He's a mentor.
Mentor. Yeah. That reminds me.
Got to have mentors.
I got to call you, Tim. I've been meaning to pick up that phone. But he said, he would show up, and his job was as a big band drummer would be to play that sheet music that was brought to him that day. And I remember thinking as a kid, wow, that sounds
it
insanely
sounds nuts.
Nuts,
You're
right?
going to drive this band, but you don't know the music yet. Now you're going to be given this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at the sheet music, it just says fill, and you're keeping time.
Right.
And you have to interpret the chart, right?
In the horn line and play those.
And compliment and drive the band and kick them. And
and that kind of back in the day, I go, wow, I don't know if I'm ever going to get that. That is like an insane level. And now I don't even know if that happens anymore. Those kind of arrangements, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something where, again, it's a muscle. You exercise it. The more you do something like that, the better you're going to get at it. And so my sight reading isn't great because I never have to do it, But charting songs out, oh my God. I mean, I have a residency gig in L.A. here. I'm in the house band at Lucky Strike.
Oh, cool.
In Hollywood.
Right. Yep.
We used to do this every week, which is crazy to think about, but then it started to be on a monthly basis, which was good. It was a lot of work sometimes, but what the gig was being in the house band, we'd learn a different list of songs every week. And we'd only rehearse at sound check, so everybody had to do their homework. And then we'd have special guests And sometimes we'd back up the special guests.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some stellar, epic nights at this place. Like last month, we had a night where Nuno Betancourt was the featured guest who played in Extreme, and he played with Rihanna for years. Really super accomplished musician, one of the greatest guitar players I've ever played with, and there's been many. But he brought Steve Vai and Tom Morello, and we had a list of songs that we were going to do. And Morello and Vai, they did not rehearse. They just showed up. And then with Nuno, we actually did a rehearsal a couple nights before, which is rare. Usually it's just sound check rehearsal. But there was a lot of songs to learn that night. Am I going to memorize them all? Hell no.
Dude, I was
it's all about
that.
the charts. All about it.
You know, I might be able to show a clip because I have a little recording of you guys doing Spoon Man.
Right, yeah, we did that.
And it was so awesome. And I thought to myself,
were you there recording?
I was there that night.
You were there. Right?
That actually is part of the reason we're here, because I said, man, every time I watch you, I'm like, man, there's stuff to learn there. There's stuff to get. And I remember seeing you play that. You guys played it so much like the record.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It's a tricky song. There's a thing you got to realize when you're learning songs, that you have to respect the arrangement and the parts. Does that mean you're doing it note for note exactly? Not necessarily. Right. But you have to respect all that stuff.
Well, that's an odd time song.
Yeah, it's in 7 mostly, but then there's a section in 3/4, the drum groove thing, before it goes into the 4/4 percussion jam, which is what they did. That's the spoon part on the record. But I make a cheat sheet, and maybe I could show an example of a cheat sheet. I could send one to you, and you could put one up.
That'd be cool
for people viewing this. But I feel like I want to make a video or two that shows how I do this.
Absolutely, man.
It doesn't mean that my way is the only way. It seems like drummers develop their own style of charting out a song.
Yeah, I have my own too. I did a video. I just do a circle.
You did a video on that.
I did,
Great.
but I'd love to see yours, because I'm like, maybe this is stupid. I don't know. It works for me.
And the more I've done it, the better I've got at it.
Yeah.
And doing that gig every week we used to do, that was crazy. I mean, I was always into learning songs, but that made it to where every week it could be 6, 10, 12 songs. That night it was 18 songs.
Oh my God!
But
man.
some I had played before. You save the charts and you pull them for future gigs.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, dude.
Well, it is, and maybe I enjoy that pressure a bit. The challenge of pulling it all together and putting on a show with such short prep time.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Some people they get into that. I know our musical director does, Steve Ferlazzo. He's into pulling it all together and getting the sounds on keyboards.
He was the guy with the mohawk.
Yeah,
right?
he's the MD, the musical director.
Cool.
That's a common industry phrase. Who's the MD?
Yeah. How do you become an MD? I always wondered that.
You got to show that you're that person that can run the show and get all the musicians on the same page with tunings and changes of instruments.
Oh,
you know, the monitor feeds.
Yep.
That everyone's going to have. Rehearsal times, when to show up, sound check. The musical director is in charge. If you got an artist that's the singer, they don't have to worry about that stuff. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
They got enough things to do. You need an MD to really make sure the band is on point.
Right on. Yeah, that's one of those things that, like, you know, people talk about being a producer, being an MD and stuff like that. And it's we're talking about the other side of the industry, and like, how do you become these things, you know? And
right. Well, you got to work your way up.
Right.
And then an MD puts the band together a lot of the time. They call the musicians.
Yeah.
They have their people that they trust. This is a big, huge thing in this business, in how you get gigs. It's reliability.
Yep.
Trust. Like Steve Ferlazzo, he knows if I have a list of songs and we're doing our gig or any other gig that we've done together, I'm going to show up and I'm going to know everything. I mean, I'm going to do that no matter what, because I have to. That's just the way it is. And if you don't do that in this business, somebody else will.
Yo, totally, man. You know, and it's funny you bring that up, because, you know, just talking about the pressure, you know, of drumming. And this is some of the other stuff that I really wanted to hear your perspective on, because, you know, back issues, back pain.
Oh, never heard of that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've been watching a bunch of videos, and some guys put a towel under their you know, they try to lift up. They try to, you know, I was doing the split throne. I try to brace, you know, all this stuff. And I wanted, because, you know, you're an in shape dude. You obviously working out. And it's like, at what point do you work out for the drums, and how do you mitigate those kind of things?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're playing heavy rock drums, it does help to be someone that does work out. It's going to make the show easier. The Alice Cooper gig is a very demanding gig.
I believe it.
And I almost didn't know what that meant originally because one or two people had mentioned something like that. I found out pretty quick what that means. He doesn't talk between songs.
Wow.
He doesn't break character. So it's one into the next, into the next. Finally, there was a space a couple years ago where Nita Strauss, our guitar player, did a guitar solo on her own. I'm like, oh, thank God. I get 2 minutes, maybe 2.5. This is great. I get to breathe. And, and then there's a song intro, a ballad where I don't play for the verse, minute and a half.
Wow.
And that's about it.
That's it.
For breaks. I have an oxygen tank on stage. That's part of what gets delivered every day. It's a lot easier in the States.
That's so cool.
Than it is in Europe, but you got to get a doctor's prescription for O2.
That's so awesome.
And we have pyro in the show, so our pyro lady, Diane, she has all these propane tanks and things delivered each day because you can't travel with that. You can't go over state lines with that. That's illegal. The stuff can explode in transit. So along with all these propane and other tanks, one tank of oxygen is delivered, and I had to just buy the face mask with the button that you hit to give you that hit of O2.
And that's for you to just get that hit, get some more
drummers
oxygen.
do this, singers do this.
Yeah.
Others do it, but it's mainly drummers and singers.
Wow.
And I'd heard of it for years. We were on tour with Motley Crue, and I saw that Tommy Lee is doing this.
Okay.
I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing this.
That's so cool.
Because it's needed. For me, on this gig, it's needed. And you got to think, like if we're playing a theater, the pyro smoke is in the air and it lingers. Yeah. It's just good to have that fresh hit of O2. And I've got the drink holder right here that I can just grab and take a quick drink of. Usually it's Emergency or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just getting a good balanced diet in, which sounds so like lame and non-rock and roll, but no, you got to get your good calories in.
Absolutely.
And you've got a very athletic gig. It's lung capacity.
Totally.
It's endurance.
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah. So do I work out thinking about that? Sure I do. I always have been a workout guy, but yeah, it helps. Even on tour. And I realize that we are lucky to get hotels every day. If people are watching that don't get hotels, I don't want to sound like an elitist, but it is nice to be able to get something of a workout in the hotel gym on the day of show, like treadmill, 20 minutes, power walk, light jog, maybe a little bit of weights if I can. Do I do it every day? No, it's not always possible, but it makes the show easier at night.
Yeah.
I feel more warmed up.
Well, I used to look at drumming. I used to have a calendar. And I say, okay, that's a workout day. That's a workout day. And I say, oh, drumming. I used to consider those as workout days. And I said, it's not enough.
So I'm doing both in some days.
No, I am
too.
You are too. I am too now
sure.
because, dude, it makes all the difference when you get up there and you're not. Because
I'd rather get the drumming in before the workout.
Yeah. You know? I just mainly like. So, are there any silver bullets that you found for lower back pain?
Well, I like, and this is another creature comfort of the road, but I have a backrest to the drum throne.
Okay.
I'm not leaning on it while I play.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have that if you have time in between songs, which I just said we don't have that much. But if you're in rehearsal, imagine being in an 8-hour-a-day rehearsal for a week.
Yeah.
You want to have a backrest.
Is that how long your rehearsals are? 8 hours?
They can be. I mean, there's breaks, obviously, for lunch or dinner.
Wow.
And things can move slow. Like you work on a song, then you stop, and they have to arrange something with maybe some props that are, it's not like we're playing 8 hours straight, but you're there for several hours a day.
Wow. Yeah.
And it flies by like this. It's not Stairmaster time. It goes by fast.
Your brain's firing, your body.
Yeah, it's nice to have a backrest, and they make that. I use the Porter and Davies throne. You know what that is?
I don't. I'll have to look it up.
Well, people maybe heard of a butt kicker where it's a tactile monitoring system.
Yeah.
You hit the bass drum, it sends that immediate vibration to the drum throne, mimicking the sound of a sub, a subwoofer, which pushes air. Like you see the cone, the horn of a subwoofer diaphragming, moving in and out.
Yeah.
It's pushing air, and you feel it if it's a good sub.
You have one of those. You like those?
I had a sub. I haven't even needed it. I have the Porter and Davies thumper, where it's connected through the monitor board to the microphone inside the bass drum, and when you hit it, it sends a sharp, succinct. Yeah, it sends that to the throne, and it's such a nice portable thing. I actually have one for around town.
Awesome.
And then there's two on the road in case one breaks down. You always have to double up on things.
Is it game changing? Like, because I've been thinking about getting one of those.
It can be. I had the one that was called the butt kicker years ago.
Yeah.
But then Porter and Davies put theirs out, and I sat down on it at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is really like right on the money. And then one time I sat in with Steel Panther.
Yeah,
At
nice.
the House of Blues.
Nice.
Stick Zidinia's kit. That's
Love it.
Darren. We did Hot for Teacher.
Ugh.
You know, and they see in the eye, hey, we got Glen Sobel here from Alice Cooper. He's going to come up and play some Hot for Teacher. I'm like, I am? Oh, no.
Oh, man.
So, you got army boots on and maybe having a couple of drinks, whatever, not planning on playing.
Sure.
But I got up and I thought, wow, this bass drum, this feels great, this thumper. And it was Porter and Davies.
Wow.
And it made it like butter, I've brought it to the baked potato of mine.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, get one.
Yeah,
Because
and some guys make fun of me, like, oh, Mr. rock star, thinking you need all these. It's like, no, you don't understand. Any drummer would love to have this. Just about.
Wow.
Some guys don't like it. I understand, but
because the low end's really missing in those in ears,
and
unless
just
you got
feeling the bass drum.
Okay.
That's the complaint drummers have at rock shows is they can't feel what they're playing.
Totally. Wow.
And if you could feel what you're doing and hear it, you start playing not as into the drums as much. You could still play hard, but you don't like strain yourself. It's like when a singer can't hear themselves, they strain their voice.
Right.
This is a thing that drummers and singers have in common, I'm telling you.
Wow. Friday, Saturday, weekend gigs, right? You're doing 4 sets each night. You got 4 hours behind the kit or so.
That's a lot.
It's a ton, man. And then, times 2 or maybe 3 or sometimes.
And if it's a small venue like a club or a big bar venue, there's not much of a monitor system. Maybe the kick is mic'd if you're lucky.
Well, we mic in our band. We mic everything, and I have a little in-ear monitor
that's
mix.
good.
It's good, right? But I'm thinking, that low kick would help a lot. But I'm really trying to figure out something for the back. Something to.
Well, Rock and Sock makes the backrest, and the Porter and Davies now they added a new product where you get the throne and it's got an attachment for a Rock and Sock chair back, which is what I got.
So I used one of those. Here's what happened to me. I felt like I was going to fall back, and we're on a, you're on a riser too, you're on a big drum. We're on one too, and I feel like I'm going to, like my weight.
When you lean on it, you feel that's a psychological
I can feel
thing.
it. Okay. So it
I would think.
Okay. So back pain stuff like. So what do you do do you do any drum specific exercises every time for drumming only? Not.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just think it's important to keep the core strong and keep your upper body strength good.
Okay, so
I'm not thinking about any specific drum things when I'm working out at the gym.
That's what I'm saying.
Other than endurance.
Okay. So when you're saying core, like when you sit at the drum, because I've talked to a couple trainers about this, because I'm looking for that silver bullet, right? And they said one thing: you stand up and you, in between songs, if you can, and you actively brace your leg, and then you're sitting down.
I do end up doing that. I end up standing up. It kind of stretches the body out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you bracing when you're sitting down? Are you like pushing out in? Like what are you doing with your
I don't know. I have a very straight spine. People have talked about my posture being unusually very straight sitting at the drums. So
yeah, you
maybe
do.
I do that. I brace.
You do
like
look
you're
really
saying.
straight. Yeah, and very, you're not slouching.
No, definitely not slouching.
Yeah.
Not most of the time.
Man. And that was something that did you play any sports growing up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, soccer, baseball.
Oh,
sure.
okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that's helped a lot.
Racquetball, yeah.
Racquetball, cool. Hey, let me see here.
Boy, that's small. How do you read that?
I know.
That's tiny. I need my glasses.
Oh, this is good. Okay. What is your favorite gig and then your least favorite gig?
Actual performances?
Yeah. Performances, yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, look, there's been a lot of favorite gigs. That's like asking favorite drummer. But I've been lucky to have a lot of great experiences. With Alice Cooper, we've played some really amazing festival gigs.
Very
where,
cool.
like Wacken, which is in Germany. And that was actually a DVD that we recorded a few years ago. And it's about 75,000 people.
Wow.
It was just amazing because you play for 20,000. It's like, oh, that's a lot of people. But 75,000, it's literally as far as the eye could see it. It's like, oh, my God, there's a lot of people out there. But those have been some really special shows. But even some of the shows we've done that have been these intimate, almost secret, last-minute club deals or charity events.
Sure.
Where we end up becoming the house band. And we've backed up so many great people, which is, again, this is where the charting songs out comes in handy.
Yeah.
Where you have to learn a bunch of songs and have guests and back them up. There have been a lot of great nights with that as well, like playing a set with Sammy Hagar or playing with Steven Tyler and people like that. And I can't go without saying the week that I subbed for Tommy Lee and Motley Crue, which...
Oh, I didn't know about that. That sounds awesome.
Which was, of course, a memorable thing. I'm from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so I grew up hearing them. I wasn't a big fan until a little later, but yeah, I started seeing them on their Dr. Feelgood tour and realized what a badass Tommy Lee is.
That's so cool.
And he doesn't get credit. He's a very important part of the sound of that band.
Sure.
And I did realize that early enough to where I really appreciated it and loved the band. And I was in a band in high school in senior year where me and my best friends, to this day, my best friends, we'd play backyard parties. We played Motley Crue songs, among other things. And so... this happened in 2015.
Wow.
So us, Alice Cooper, we were on tour with Motley Crue for a good while. We were out with them on their farewell tour.
Right.
It was Motley Crue's special guest, Alice Cooper. So we were doing about an hour.
Okay.
With full deal, the props and the fake blood and the balloons and just all the trimmings, right? And the production manager called me in my room. We were in Buffalo, New York. And he called me asking if I'd be able to play for Tommy that night. And I've known this guy a little bit since way back.
Wow.
Since when he worked for Marilyn Manson and my old band, Beautiful Creatures, opened for them. And I'm thinking this guy's messing with me. I'm like, okay, come on, man.
Yeah.
Who's messing with me? He assured me it's very serious. Tommy had a flare-up of tendonitis in his right wrist and forearm. So it was real. And it was all about charting songs out.
Oh my
God. It sounds funny to say I had a music stand with a light over it at a Motley Crue show, but you have to have the light because it's a dark stage a lot of the time. But did it help that we were on tour with them for a while? Of course it did. And did it help that I grew up hearing them? Of course. Absolutely. But they have live arrangements where they would add extra little cues to anticipate big pyro explosions.
Wow.
And this was about on 7 hours notice, and as soon as I realized it was not a joke, I told Robert, the production manager, I said, all right, have Adam, that's their sound guy.
Yeah.
I said, have Adam get me a recording of the show on a thumb drive, send a runner van to come pick me up. I need a music stand with a light over it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to go pick that up somewhere. And I need to sit in a production office at the venue and chart out the show.
Very cool.
And that's what that was all about.
Yeah.
And so for a week, I would play the Alice set and then the Motley set. And they were so unbelievably cool. I already knew Nikki Sixx from way back. I'd played in 6 a.m. when they first got that going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their very first
Love that
gig.
band.
The very first gig they ever did in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something in L.A., which again was a last minute thing, sort of.
Yeah.
And this ended up happening for a week, and I just ended up finishing that leg of the tour because right after a week there was a 2-week break.
Okay.
And so, it was a crazy experience. Everything on click.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask. Okay, so
which helps
for sure.
It absolutely helps. The click is your friend.
Yes, big time.
Yeah, and so because their lighting show, it's all synced up. If Tommy's playing, like Primal Scream, I feel like that.
Yeah.
The lights do that with the fill.
Awesome.
It's programmed in.
Yeah.
And the guy that runs that system is on the side of the stage making sure everything's running okay. And Tommy's able to talk to me in my in-ear monitors.
What kind of stuff would he say?
Well, he was there to cue, right?
Oh.
But I did not want to rely on that.
Yeah. Like here comes the chorus kind of stuff?
Yeah, except the cue sometimes be like, on Wild Side, stop, right? On the stop.
Thanks, dude.
Right? Well, okay, but it's not something someone's used to doing, cueing another drummer on their songs.
True. Yeah.
But him and the guy running everything on the side there, they saw that I had it more or less. Was the first show perfect? No, of course not. But I thought, there's no way I'm going to train wreck Motley Crue in front of 12,000 people.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not going to happen. Because the pressure's on, but there's a weird part of you or me, I should say. Half of you is like, what do I get myself into? This is nuts.
Yeah.
And the other half is, I got this. I could do this. Confidence is key. And one of the main things that helped have the confidence to do this and pull it off was the fact that back in 2010, I had sub last minute on Italy's biggest rock star named Vasco Rossi.
Okay.
Who I don't expect a lot of people to hear of in the States, but I had heard of him just because he always has American drummers.
Awesome.
Like always. In the 90s, there was Dean Castronova, and there's Jonathan Moffett.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was Mike Baird, Kenny Aronoff.
Nice.
The records have been Greg Bissonette, Vinny Colaiuta, and then Matt Logg was playing for him, who, if you don't know Matt, you've heard records he's played on. He's on like Alanis Morissette's first record. Big LA session guy. And Matt had an injury. This is 2010, and long story short is a producer I had met that lived in LA, an Italian producer. I met him on a cover gig I was doing.
Nice.
Right? I was playing with Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch. This is back in 07.
Dude, I've been on a deep. I was listening to them this morning.
Great band, yeah.
Yeah. Did you play with them? Or?
I didn't, no, but I played with Jason in a couple different bands.
Is he the guitarist?
Yeah.
I watched his tutorial. I'm trying to learn.
He's the newer guitar player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, me, him, and Phil X were in a band together.
Awesome.
And the drummer in that band before me was Jeremy Spencer.
Why does that name sound familiar?
He's the drummer from Five Finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So it's all very incestuous.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, people learn that pretty quickly. But we were doing this cover gig. Chuck Wright was on bass, just having a good time, maybe making $100 a guy, something like that. And in walks an engineer I had worked with, and he was with this Italian producer who I met. And the producer said, "Hey, well, I like what you're doing. I got some demo stuff I'm doing. Maybe I can call you for a session at my home studio." I said, "Sure, of course. I'd love to." I did a session for him a couple weeks later, made the cheat sheet right on the spot. He had the song mapped out in Pro Tools with just a general outline. Scratch vocals, scratch guitar means like guides. They're not necessarily keeper tracks. A click, guitar, vocals, told me the vibe of the song. I charted out the kick snare patterns he had programmed. And then you go in, you track, you do a first take, you make adjustments. They suggest, instead of doing that, do this, change the kick pattern to this. And we were done. That was it.
Yeah.
In and out pretty quick. I didn't talk to him too much, but a couple years later, he did call me asking, can I get on a plane to Italy in 3 days?
Wow.
And the main reason he called me was not because of chops or anything like that. It was because of being able to chart songs out.
Yeah, he saw that, and he said, wow, that guy knows what he's doing. That's pro.
Well, I could read music. It doesn't make me a genius.
Yeah.
It just means I'm a drum nerd that was really into reading music.
Totally.
And I'll tell you, a side note, when it comes to getting subs, especially a last-minute sub, the top of the list is always people that have done the gig previous. Makes sense, right?
Sure, yep.
And then I keep hitting that.
It's all good.
If nobody is available from that list, you start going to people that are known by people in the band.
Right.
And then if not, then you got to go outside of that and start asking for recommendations. And I know that they had called Greg Bissonette because he had played on a Vasco record or two. I think he was busy with Ringo at the time.
Wow.
And this producer said, well, I'm thinking maybe Glen Sobel, calling him. And Greg said, yeah, call Glenn. He'd be perfect for this.
Awesome.
And it's about the reading music thing, number one.
Okay.
And just knowing how to not worry about putting on a show right away. You got to focus on that music stand. We were able to rehearse a little bit.
Yeah.
But I stayed up 2 days straight learning 24, 25 songs.
Wow.
Because I knew that the pressure's on and people are nervous. There's a tour that's sold out. It's Live Nation. It's all stadiums and arenas. And I walk into this room once I got to Sardinia, the island where the first show was.
Sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful island. And we were able to rehearse in a room there for a couple of days. And I'm thinking already, like, yeah, I'm going to walk into this room and everyone's going to be very nervous because they don't know me.
Totally.
And they should be nervous.
Yeah.
They've got every reason to be. You could watch drum solos from somebody. You could watch them rip and play all these crazy songs. That doesn't mean they can do what's needed in the moment for the sub game.
Totally.
This is a skill set, which involves reading, charting, adapting, right? So we played through the first couple songs that were segued together, and then everybody kind of broke out into a little mini applause, which was them saying, oh, my God, we're going to be okay.
Oh, my God.
You know, and then it became kind of fun after that. But that's because I stayed up 2 days straight, charting the songs out, every little thing I could. Your purpose on that is to make the band forget you're there.
There you go.
If they forget, if they turn around and go, oh, yeah, we got a sub, I keep forgetting, then you're doing a good job. It's not It's not that drummer did this, I'm going to do this. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. Man, that is some sage advice right there. Make them forget that you're there.
Yeah, seriously.
The last band I got in, I sat in when they one of the guys said the same thing to me at the end. He goes, man, I forgot that we even had somebody sitting in.
That's the best compliment you can get. I'm telling you, I'm coming in subbing for Matt Logg on the Vasco gig. I'm doing my best Matt Logg impression. Motley Crue, I'm going to do my best Tommy Lee impression. Yeah. Nobody sounds just like Tommy, but there is a way that he plays and hits, and he's obviously very classic rock influence, Bonham and the like. It's all in there.
Were you on his kit, or did you have your own kit?
No. Good question. Scaled down my kit. I had the 2 bass drums still.
Oh, okay.
But in between sets, my tech and Tommy's tech, Nick, scaled down my kit to 1 rack, just a 13 and then 16, 18 floor.
Oh, wow.
Took away all the stuff on the left, which was like China Crash,
Wow.
left floor tom. Had to put the music stand there. Didn't need it. Didn't
Okay.
need the 10 that's hanging up here.
Yeah.
Didn't need any of that. And yeah, just scaled it down.
Wow. So how was the changeover? Because you were sitting with, or you were subbing in Motley Crue and Alice Cooper, so you had a double header on those. Yeah. That's
masseuse came down once or twice that week that they got me to work
Nice.
on me in the deep tissue.
Nice.
But it's funny what your body can get used to if you keep the workouts up. You know,
Right. Game fitness.
Yeah,
you're
pretty
on
much.
The road, you're doing all those shows. One thing I want to ask you, you're talking about you don't want to be a showman at first. You want to get in, make sure you do the job. I would consider more of a showy player when you want to be. Is that fair?
it's got its place.
Yeah, because you got that you do that super smooth thing on the hi-hat, but you also can do some twirls.
Yeah. Well, Alice Cooper, that's a gig where it's acceptable. It's
For sure.
something that Alice wanted to make sure of. That's a whole other thing of how that gig happened. I didn't meet Alice until the first day of rehearsal.
Wow, that's cool.
But his whole thing was, well, my drummer's got to be flashy. I was recommended because I had done a recording session for Alice in 2010 that Bob Ezrin produced. He was the original producer of School's Out, I'm 18.
Wow.
And then, of course, he's known for doing Kiss and Pink Floyd and everything.
Yeah.
But my buddy, Tommy Henriksen, that I've known forever, got me on this session in Nashville where we were remaking note for note Alice Cooper songs like School's Out, No More Mr. Nice Guy,
Wow.
a few songs, and he was re-singing it, and the question is why?
Yeah.
Why do that? Well, you don't even realize it a lot of times. You hear certain classic rock songs in movies, commercials, video games. You're hearing the re-recorded version that the band did. And why do that? Because now the band and their management own this newly recorded master.
Right.
And they don't have to, no one has to go to the old record label, the rights holders of that original master recording, and go through all that red tape, and then that label gets a piece of it, That's
so
this way,
funny.
the artist gets everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so they just have to pay some session players to recreate
Wow.
these sounds, and a producer. In this case, they got the actual producer that did the songs originally, which was interesting.
Man,
we had to make the 70s come alive again.
Well, I was thinking that the other day because when you watch movies, there is always something a little off. And I'm like, I've heard
About the song?
Yeah.
Well, it
I've
could be a
heard that-
knockoff, or it could be an exact remake.
Or it could be maybe just a really aggressive different master, right?
It
the
could
movie
be.
guy might be adding
When we do those things, the idea is to make people think they're hearing like a remastered version of the original.
Okay.
And so this involved reading music big time.
Yeah.
I had to make note-for-note transcriptions of Neil Smith. That's the original Alice drummer. He's a great guy. He's come out to play, and he's sat in, and I had to get into his style, being a mimic, And then there was also Whitey Glenn that played on Welcome to My Nightmare. I had to
Wow.
copy his vibe, different sound. But this was transcriptions, and it was fun. It was Reb Beach on guitar and Greg Smith on bass, who had both played with Alice previously. And yeah, we had to recreate the sounds, the drum sounds that's real dampened with the tissue taped onto the toms and the snare.
Wow.
And this led to the touring gig a year later, is what I'm saying. But
That
reading
session.
music played a
Yeah.
part in this, in getting the gig.
Hey, so that is amazing. With the sounds, you had the tape on the drums and everything. How much after the fact was replaced?
Samples?
Yeah.
There was samples blended in on that, but
Yeah.
there's an art form to that.
For sure.
You have to ride the samples. If there's dynamics happening like a crescendo on the snare, something like that, the samples have to go accordingly.
Totally.
It's tedious.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it, but
Yeah.
engineers are paid to do this, or they delegate it to other assistant engineers who sit there and do this with the drums. But samples can enhance a performance, or they can ruin it.
Yeah.
It can go either
definitely,
way.
Definitely.
I mean, if there's no time to mix something and they're putting samples on kicks and snares and just not paying attention to dynamics, it makes it sound almost like it was programmed, like a drum machine.
Yeah.
And why did you bother to bring in a nice drum set and have it all tuned nice?
Yeah.
If you're going to make it like where over 50% of the note of the hit is a sampled snare.
Yeah.
This is where the hit triggers a digital recording of a snare.
Right.
And the idea is to blend the sounds, but to me, it shouldn't be too much of that hit. It's just to make it enhanced and
Yeah.
punched through the music properly.
Yeah. Well, guys like you, and I would like to pat myself on the back. We hit pretty consistently.
It's important.
Yeah. So I always wonder, you look at the waveform and the snare looks consistent, So I'm like, yeah, we're going to put a sample on it just to punch it up, for sure. But at the end of the day, if you're compressing it, if you're that should be pretty. I mean, that's what makes a good studio drummer. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Samples are also used to fix an inconsistent performance.
Right.
They're used to homogenize the hits on the snare, which is a problem that many engineers have with drummers in the studio.
Yeah.
But the problem is then it turns into that machine gun programmed sound if it's too much of a sample.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're so right about that. The new Hollywood Vampires record, it's coming out real soon.
Okay, so Hollywood Vampires. Awesome name.
Yeah, it's sort of a super group that got put together. Alice Cooper singing, Johnny Depp on guitar, Joe Perry from Aerosmith also on guitar. And then there's Tommy Henriksen. He's been pretty much the mastermind of this latest record. There was a first record. It was mostly a covers thing. I'm on about half of that.
Wow.
And then there's some other guest drummers. But now this time it's all originals with a couple exceptions. And I'm on the whole record.
How many songs?
Well, I recorded a lot. I got to figure out what's making the record. I could have recorded about 20 songs. Whew. I think the record will be maybe 12 or 13 songs total.
Awesome.
But
where'd you guys record? What studio?
I did the drums at Howard Benson's studio, which is right close by here in Woodland Hills.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Howard wasn't producing on this. Producer was Tommy Henriksen and Johnny.
Oh, okay.
And Tommy is a guy, like I said, I've known him forever. And we were in a band together in the mid-late 90s.
Awesome.
And the band, it went its separate ways. It was a good experience, but then Tommy became a producer for different people and would get me on sessions. It's the producers that hire the session players. And he got to the point where he knew he could rely on me. I would show up with things charted out, take direction, and just figure out the vibe.
Cool.
And so I owe him my life practically. I mean, he got me in the Alice circle of people to begin with on that Nashville recording session where we remade the songs. Tommy was working with Bob Ezrin.
Wow.
So, yeah, and then the Vampires thing, what we did was we did the drums at Howard Benson's studio with Tommy and Johnny producing, and then Mike Plotnikoff engineering.
Wow.
He's engineered and mixed practically half the records you hear on modern rock radio.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
wow.
He's worked with everyone. He's a joy to work with. He just knows how drums should sound. And I'm so happy to say that there are no samples on this record.
That's so cool.
It's raw, and there's no beat detective,
yeah.
which is the program that can artificially line up and quantize the notes, which is most modern rock records these days.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is not so perfectly in tune. It's just not perfect. Perfect is not always a great thing in rock and roll.
Totally, man.
And that's been kind of forgotten maybe and lost. You listen to classic Aerosmith, Van Halen, Zeppelin, things are not perfect.
This brings me up to a personal plug. I got to give you a copy of the record I recorded last year. Definitely not perfect.
Do you have it?
I have a copy for you. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's from the Dick Star record. So that's my band.
Yeah.
So.
Where'd you do the drums?
We did it at a few different places. One with this dude named Josh Franks, who works out of Burbank, and we did it at Stag Studios.
Sure. Yeah.
You remember that Melody and all them?
Yeah, great place.
Yeah, awesome place, great sounds. And we did the other some other tracks at Station House Studio with Mark Rains. Who did some of the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club drummer turned engineer.
Drummers make good engineers and producers.
Totally, man.
And sound men. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I dabble.
You're in good hands.
Totally, man. Yeah. So, and then I did a bunch at my own place with some SSD.
Stephen Slate drums.
Yep, with the V drums. And man, I'll have to ask you. I'd love to hear a blind test if you can tell. Which ones are, in a studio, which ones are
on the V drums.
Yeah,
yeah. It's getting pretty nuts with how lifelike those can sound. Yeah.
And you did a plug for them, right? Or the practice?
Yeah, years ago for Stephen Slate drums, I did the video promos for his sample library.
I think that made me buy it
on a V drum kit. It made a lot of people buy it. Yeah. Where's my cut, huh?
Right?
No, Steve's great. That guy has gone in the business with his plugins and everything. He's just become a giant
Yeah, man.
in the biz.
I know. He's got the virtual mics, all that stuff, you know.
So you did this record. Was there samples blended in?
There are.
But you wanted to closely supervise this.
Yeah.
To make sure it didn't turn you into sounding like a robot.
I engineered like 80% of it, 85%. I just went into a couple studios.
Oh, so you do that. You engineer.
I do. Yeah, I do. I do engineering. I do recording, producing, all that stuff. I wrote the whole record, you know, and it's all over the place, multi-genre, you know. There's a lot of rock, and then there's some rap and some, you know, funk, and it's nuts, you know. So I'd love to hear, you know, what you think. But you know, I went in because this is my other thing I want to talk to you about. Is like I went in because I just love going in a studio, and man, it's inspiring. You know, the drums, the room.
You're gonna come out a better player usually.
Totally.
You're hearing yourself under a microscope.
Oh my God, yeah, and I just love it, and the room sound, and everything. And what do you think about, you know, the future of music? Do you think we're going to come back to more studios? Do you think it's, what do you think?
As far as live musicians?
As far as recording, as far as, you know, the next tracks that are coming out, I mean, it's, you know.
Well, if you're talking rock music, it could happen where that comes back a little more. There's people that talk about certain bands. I know that one of the bands, of course, lately has been Greta Van Fleet that people talk about.
Oh, okay.
You can't ignore the Zeppelin comparisons,
Cool.
but it sounds like that's a pretty raw record without trying to make it sound quote unquote perfect. You know, you hear the little imperfections that make it rock and roll, and maybe that is a sign that something like that is going to be a little more acceptable. Look, you listen to modern rock radio, like on satellite radio, there's Octane, that channel.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
It really gets to the point where I think sometimes I'm just hearing the same sounds.
Absolutely.
Guitar tones, drum tones, the auto-tune on the vocals.
Yeah. Well, think about this, man. You know, I mean, we both did records. I just did this whole thing, spent all this time, all this, you know, critically in the studio, all this stuff, and then it comes out of, you know, this 1 millimeter speaker.
I know, right? People are going to listen on their iPhone.
Yeah, it's weird. And then, you know, the SoundCloud and all that, they do their own compression and stuff. So this has been beat to.
You always have to take that into consideration.
Yeah. And you know, when I was a little kid, I bought that book, How to Be a Working Drummer. I don't know if you remember, as a modern drummer put it out. Anyways, so my little 13-year-old said, "Oh wow!" And Kenny Aronoff is in, and Stephen Perkins, all these dudes talking about studio techniques, and I just want to know, like, guys like you know, doing a lot of sessions, is there behind that door 100 drum recording sessions going on that other guys don't know about? Or is the drum recording, you know, is it kind of more sparse these days?
As far as what, the work itself?
The work itself, yeah.
Maybe. I mean, there's more and more players that have their own recording studios.
Right.
Drummers that are self-contained. They have a room with the mics all set up.
Totally.
And maybe they bring in an engineer when there's work to do, but the drums are more or less dialed in.
They got their own place.
Yeah. They import the files, the stems, and open it up into their own Pro Tools session, record it, and send it back, or someone just comes to them physically.
Yeah.
That's more common.
Cool.
Some of those bigger rooms, they're losing work or they're closed.
It's crazy, man. Like, you know, I'm looking around, and, you know, I would even go do, you know, voiceover stuff, any recording, any time when somebody's needs somebody there to record, because there's so much stuff happening at home, you know, and you can do such crazy stuff at home, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just, this is also part of the thing is, you know, everybody online, they have all these videos on, you know, how to do paradiddles and all that stuff. We didn't talk one thing about technique, because, you know, you have a billion videos on technique. You know, I don't even have that many, because I would look at a video that you did. If I'm like, how would I want to do a stick curl? Let me look at Glen's video.
Well, there is one from years ago at a drum festival in Mexico.
I think I saw that one.
It's like a 1-minute clip. That people want to know that. I always give that disclaimer, you know, don't do it on the wrong gig, or you're so fired. It's
so lame. Yeah, on the wrong thing.
Don't do it if you're playing with Celine Dion or someone like that.
Yeah, you're only doing it because you're so dialed in that it's
the Alice gig, it's cool, it's acceptable. It's a very showy gig, but like when I've played with Richie Sambora, I'm really not doing it. You know, some of that is like blues rock and slow blues mixed in with some of the Bon Jovi stuff. It's not as acceptable on that. I don't feel like it.
How did you, one thing that I've always known, how do you do, like, you're so like smooth on the hi-hat, and are you do you consciously try to stay like I don't know. Like, what's the difference between that and just some dude just muscling?
I don't know. You got to be able to play with volume, which is something I tell drummers about. Is drummers actually have to practice playing loud.
Yeah, you do hit hard, man. I remember. Oh my god.
Well, and you got to have all the level of dynamics, but everything's better when you're relaxed.
Right.
Just about everything. I mean, in sports, people will say that with golfing and hitting baseballs and. You have to try really hard if you're running, if you're doing the long jump and things like that. Of course, it's cool to try there, but you don't ever want to sound like you're trying when you're playing music. You just do it. You don't try.
That's great.
And being relaxed is going to help. Comedians say that about their comedy sets. They're better when they're relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's great.
So somehow that got into my playing years ago, the relax factor.
You know what? This brings me to one of my things. Okay, at what point did that click for you? Like, did you have a day where you just said, okay, I get this?
I don't know if there was ever one specific moment.
Yeah.
There have been for other things, like playing rim shots, which I always talk to aspiring rock drummers about the importance of that consistent rim shot. People think that's crazy, of hitting the rim and the sort of the center of the drum at the same time consistently.
Right.
But it does happen.
Yeah.
One day I looked down, this was back in 12th grade, I think, in high school. We were practicing my band in our friend's parents' living room.
Yeah.
There's carpet everywhere and 2 loud guitar amps. It makes you have to physically play louder.
Yeah.
And I just looked down, I'm like, oh, I guess I play rim shots now.
Dude, it's funny you bring that up because when I hit you up for a lesson, I don't know how many years ago, and I just said, that was one of the first things you said to me. You looked at my sticks and you said, okay, so you're doing rim shots here or something. And
talking about where the head is struck, probably.
Where the
sweet spot.
Yeah, the sweet spot, where it was hitting the rim and where the thing. And then also you said switch to 2Bs, which I did immediately that day.
If you were doing rock gigs,
stuff.
I was talking about moving up a little bit in weight.
Yep.
Yeah, it can make things easier.
Yeah, totally. And
but then if it gets too heavy, then it makes things hard. There's a fine line there. But when people move up in weight of stick, sometimes all of a sudden it just gets easier to get a big sound.
Yeah, totally.
It just does sometimes. You just have to find what works for you. And what you're talking about is something, boy, I end up talking about that with so many students, especially the ones like if I'm on tour, maybe I'll do a clinic on a day off at a drum shop or day of sometimes if it's a Saturday. But sometimes I'll do private lessons at these shops. So it's people coming in for this one-off lesson.
Totally, man.
And so I'm thinking about, we don't necessarily have to do written out examples of things. It's food for thought. And I bring that up a lot. And some people, they're not aware of where they're hitting that rim shot.
I wasn't thinking about it.
For me, for rock, the sweet spot is the tip of the stick hitting like 1.5 inches above the center.
Right.
There's
just
a difference.
Center. Totally.
There is a difference.
Dead, you want to just up a little bit.
The tone is going to be fuller.
You can look on that drum over there. It's just,
it's worn out? Yeah.
It's right on that upper, Yeah. And
these are things that drummers don't think about a lot. And I want them to think about this stuff. It's conceptual.
Totally.
And talking about that and the importance of like the grace notes and the pull-out strokes and the control strokes, the pull-out strokes being like a double where it's the first one. Those are everywhere in what we do. Or a control stroke is where the first one is the accent. Like when you're playing grace notes. It's a control stroke. And these are everywhere in what we do. It's just important to identify them. And so I teach using these terms a lot. If I feel that the student is into that and at that level, this isn't beginner stuff.
I just say, like, I call it the big little.
The little details that are huge.
Well, just
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Which seems crazy, right?
But to a little kid, man.
When you first see that, you're like, you mean a full-on accent followed by a ghost note? That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's just kind of the foundation.
But it clicks, hopefully.
It does, most
by
of the time.
listening to music that has it and playing along to records.
That quarter note pulse, And I saw Akira Jimbo do a clinic, and he talked about that in his broken, I mean, he speaks good English, but he said,
I love that
it's strong quarter note pulse makes good beat, And I'm like, right on, man, okay. And forever is strong quarter note pulse, but the pull out stroke, same thing. That's the little.
Well, and it's everywhere. It's in the bass drum too. If you're you're accenting that second one, hopefully. I think that's part of what makes it swing and groove.
Totally.
Or if you're doing a rock shuffle, your right hand is doing that on the hi-hat, maybe. If you're doing like the Lido shuffle, Boz Scaggs.
Oh, yeah, I looked that up.
You're not playing a shuffle like...
Right.
It's Moeller technique in a way where you got that... If you just do eighth notes... It's like you get down and then one on the way up.
Totally, man.
Two notes for the price of one, I call it. But that could be Back in Black, AC/DC.
Totally.
Where you got that pulse, that quarter note pulse.
Yep.
But then you swing that, and it's the same thing. Now it's just
Yep.
So the right foot has to match that dynamic.
And that's where that speed comes from, and all my little kids, they try to muscle everything. And I'm, dude, we got to, you're never going to play fast like that. So
that's so true. So you're teaching a lot. That's great.
I am, man. Yeah, I'm teaching
great.
like 4 days a week. And, kids from 6 years old to 60, and
great.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And it definitely made me, and I'm playing left footed now just for fun. So
just to build up the foot?
Yeah, well, my right knee was getting, so I just switched everything like this. So I'm open-handed right.
Something I haven't done.
You got to try it. It's so fun. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's, because your left foot, it's always going to be a little more dead, but, at least you don't have to cross up like this. You're open-handed.
True,
I just moved the hi-hat over. And, but the reason, I did it was, one, just to get more work on this side,
Sure.
But the other reason is it made me remember what it's like to start playing drums.
True, yeah. You feel like a beginner because you're reversed.
Like your body, you got to think again. You got to think.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And I said, oh, man, because,
it gives you more patience with students.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
a good point.
Man. Yeah, you got to have that patience, man. Yeah. So, well, hey, Glenn, I know you got a heart out. What's next for you, man? What do you think for drumming for Glenn?
What is next? With Alice Cooper and Hollywood Vampires, a lot of stuff got announced this week. Tour dates.
Yeah, I'm seeing it blowing up on Instagram. Yeah.
The Hollywood Vampires record is coming out. They say April, May. I don't know the exact release date yet, but people have been waiting for that, obviously.
Yeah.
But we have some Alice dates. We got a lot that are announced. We have the first thing is a festival in Mexico City.
Awesome. That
we're doing in early May with Kiss. And then right after that, we fly right back to L.A. And then myself, Alice, and Tommy Hendrickson, we go into Hollywood Vampires rehearsals because we have a spring run of shows.
Awesome.
And that band, I should say, also has Chris Wise on bass.
Okay.
From The Cult and Ace Frehley. He's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Buck Johnson from Aerosmith, who is like their utility guy, background vocals, keys, even a little guitar. Like, he's the guy you want in your band.
Wow.
Sings the high third over Steven Tyler.
Oh, my God.
So he's in Hollywood Vampires. And so the six of us, we have a great time on tour. We got a spring run of dates. It includes West Coast, like L.A. at the Greek Theater. And there's Vegas and Albuquerque, Scottsdale, San Francisco. There's a bunch of shows.
You guys doing Michigan?
Not with that, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But we are with Alice, I think. There's a run of shows with Alice that got announced just the other day. It's going to be us and Hailstorm.
Awesome.
Doing a double bill with special guest Motionless in White. And that's going to be like the Sheds, the amphitheaters. They call them the Sheds. It's an industry term, right? But that's going to hit up,
the
I
Sheds.
think. In
Detroit,
is that what
they call it?
They call them Sheds, yeah.
Oh, cool. The big stadiums.
Outdoor amphitheaters.
Oh, outdoor. Oh, Sheds.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
okay.
so Detroit, it'll be Pine Knob, which
awesome.
is, what is it now? It's the DTE Energy Center, right?
Yeah, it is.
Those
yeah,
corporate
right.
names.
Yeah.
I call
totally.
it Pine Knob still.
Pine Knob, yep.
But yeah, we'll hit up a lot of those. That'll be about a month or a 5-week tour. Cool. And then we head to Europe with Alice for 6 weeks or so.
Wow, man.
There's a lot. Alice is a machine. The guy doesn't know how to relax. So I got to keep up with things.
Well, he's got a good drummer.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been lucky to be on this gig. It's going on 8 years now.
Yeah,
and
wow, man.
It's of course flown by. And he doesn't want to take a year off from touring. He is always doing something.
Wow.
And so, again, we're just super fortunate. And with the Vampires, the 2 gigs, there's no way they can ever conflict.
Yeah.
So with those going on, there's a lot coming up.
Wow, man. Well, hey, Glenn, dude, thank you so much for taking the time.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming here to Soundcheck Music School, by the way. I've been doing a little bit of lessons here when I can, but it's owned by my good friends Dan and Electra. They've had this school here for 6 years, right near where I live. I didn't even realize it until maybe a couple years ago, but they've got a big roster of students, and they do drums, guitar, bass, piano, vocals, all kinds of stuff. So if you live anywhere in the West Valley, check this place out. Good people, good school.
Yeah, this is an awesome place, awesome facility. Big thanks to them, and great school, obviously. So, well, hey, man, let's get on the road. Let's get back at it.
See what happens when drummers get together.
Yeah, it's a good time, right?
We talk.
Yeah,
it's good to see you, Tim.
You too. All right, Glenn. Thanks, man.